Okay, I will call to order the Agenda and Priorities Committee meeting for January the 17th. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda? No? Okay, could I please have someone make a motion to accept the agenda?
I so move, Mayor Barkley.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Harrison. All in favor? Thank you. So first up, we have Passenger Rail for Alberta on Zoom. I'd like to welcome Vern Raincock and Thomas Fryer to do a presentation on regional rail. So I believe Kara is just going to bring them up and
hello, can you hear me?
yes, we can. Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council, for letting us present. So I'm going to quickly share my screen for the presentation. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Okay, so my name is Thomas Fryer. I'm originally from the UK, where taking a train is taken for granted. We do it all the time. I went to university in Exeter, and I used to catch the train between London and Exeter for my semesters. So I'm a civil structural engineer, and I moved out here in 2006, and I was working on a project in downtown Calgary overlooking the Canadian Pacific main line, and I just noticed how few trains there were running through, and I thought it would be like, why is there not a passenger rail system in Alberta? This is ideal. I did a bit of research, and all anybody was talking about was high-speed rail, and high-speed rail is not where we need to start, and high-speed rail will only connect Calgary and Edmonton. It does nothing for the communities in between, the entire corridor. So that's why I researched a bit more, and there was nobody promoting it, and so I set it up myself. I started this, and I met up with after a few years ago, I met up with Vern Raincock, and he's been a great help. He's managed to help me push this forward and push this to this position where we are now. So that's a bit of background on myself. What I'm going to talk through is a little overview. Why do people travel? What the current trends are in the corridor? Why regional rail? What the alternatives to regional rail are? And some about Alberta regional rail and some examples in North America. So why do we travel? We travel for work, business meetings, leisure, sporting events and game days, and for social reasons, to meet family and friends. Although a lot of travel has been curtailed through the coronavirus pandemic, post-pandemic, people will still travel. Maybe not as much as before, as a number of people will be able to work from home. However, there will always be meetings and other collaborative exercises to engage in, and there'll be game days and other events to participate in. A passenger rail service that is fast, efficient, reliable, and safe allows parents to work in the big city and allows kids to ride their bikes on the street, bringing the rural communities closer to the big cities. These are the latest numbers from the annual average daily traffic counts in 2019 for the QE2. In the section south of Red Deer, there was a minimum of over 31,000 vehicles a day, which is a 20% increase from 2010 and a 36% increase from 2005. In the section north of Red Deer, there was a minimum of almost 27,500 vehicles per day, which is a 25% increase from 2010 and a 43% increase from 2005. In total, almost 52,000 vehicles per day travel through Red Deer. Being majority two-lane highway, when there is a collision, one lane is blocked, leading to severe journey delays. Sometimes the highway is completely closed in one or both directions. In winter, there are increased driving hazards that include ice, snow, and blizzards. When driving the QE2 in winter months, you'll regularly see vehicles in the ditch and central divider. With a total of over 106,000 vehicles per day into Calgary and a total of over 112,000 vehicles per day into Edmonton, when the QE2 gets into Calgary and Edmonton, the number of vehicles becomes so great that the traffic is reduced to a crawl. A journey that would take 30 minutes in free-flowing traffic can take an hour or more. Travel within the Calgary-Edmonton corridor is only going to increase. Current highway capacity has reached its limit in some areas and will soon reach capacity in others. Something will need to be done in the corridor. So why regional rail? High speed is not a prerequisite. There will be multiple stops along the way, as the aim is to serve all the towns and cities in the Calgary-Edmonton corridor. The aim is to use the Canadian Pacific right of way, as this passes through all the principal communities, towns, and cities in the Calgary-Edmonton corridor. This is the advantage of intensifying the use of this existing transportation corridor. This will make it cheaper to construct, as the land will not be needing to be purchased, and a significant amount of the required infrastructure is already in place. The goal of passenger rail is to take cars off the road, leading to lower congestion levels. Also, as passenger rail has the ability to take cars off the road, the need for highway expansions is reduced or delayed many years. People who switch from a car to a train benefit for various reasons. Cost savings, as residents will no longer need a car or no longer need to pay for car insurance, as they would be driving their car a lot less fuel and less wear and tear. Time savings. The maximum speed limit on the QE2 is 110 kilometers an hour. However, regional rail could reach speeds of 180 kilometers an hour, even within built-up areas where cars can be limited to 50 kilometers an hour. Higher productivity. What can we legally do in a car? All we can legally do is drive. What can we do on a train? You can read, send emails, eat and drink, and just relax and rest. We can do so much more on a train than we can in a car. That makes it a far more productive form of transportation. The fact we can relax and recharge also makes passenger rail a far less stressful form of transportation. Additional benefits include new transportation options. No longer would residents be reliant on their cars or on other people that have cars. With fewer cars on the roadways in the municipalities become more inviting to cyclists and pedestrians. Rail has by far the lowest emissions of any of the motorized mass transit options, and with the use of hydrogen fuel cells, will be a zero-emission form of transportation. By bringing the rural communities closer to the big cities, rail can promote alternative living and employment choices for residents. The young would no longer feel the need to leave in order to work in the big city, and those that are older or that have health conditions could also stay in their communities, as their medical appointment would only be a short train ride away. But also those that cannot or do not drive. They would no longer be reliant on others to get them where they need to go, including those that cannot drive because of age or disability. Regional rail would provide access to affordable transit that would cover the entire region, not just for people to get to Calgary or Edmonton, but for a student to get to Olds College, Red Deer Polytechnic University, or Birmingham University, a patient to go for a medical appointment, or for somebody to meet with friends in the next town. Passenger rail enables people to take trips they would not normally take. A family trip to a local tourist attraction, a day trip just to get away for a while. When the weather is cold and nasty, a person will likely decide they don't want to risk white knuckling it on the QE2. Also, when a person may be feeling a bit bored or just wants to get away for a while, they can just hop on a train. With regional rail, destinations within the corridor become more accessible. As well as the various attractions in Calgary and Edmonton becoming more accessible to the residents of the corridor, the various tourist attractions within the corridor become more accessible to all the residents of the corridor, whether it be a pop concert at Rogers Arena or a local band at a bar in Innisfail. As well as year-round attractions, there are also seasonal attractions. Stampede in Calgary, K-Days in Edmonton. There are also sporting events, rodeos, and powwows that occur throughout the corridor. During the Christmas season, a number of towns and cities put on special light displays, a festival of lights. With regional rail, additional or special trains can be put on to accommodate these events. Battle of Alberta trains, Christmas trains. As well as getting people to a destination, the train can also be the destination. For example, the Rocky Mountaineer. With the regional rail system, there are various types of special trains that can be put on, with either a special consist or particular locomotives or cars, special lunch and dinner trains that showcase local produce, night trains for stargazing, sunset sunrise trains with visitors put up in local hotels. Regional rail can also provide a safe ride home. You can have a few drinks with friends and family in the next town and catch the train home. You can watch your favorite sports team play and win in the big city, make a night of it, and safely get home. One alternative to building regional rail is busing, but it's really only a short-term solution that would require dedicated bus lanes in the longer term. A relevant example that is comparable to population size and density and geography and climate is the Flatiron Flyer between Boulder and Denver, a total distance of 47 kilometers with multiple communities served along the route. Bus services started in 2016 with the purchase of 59 buses, with the ultimate goal being a passenger rail service. 32 kilometers of high-occupancy toll lanes have recently been completed for a total cost of just under $900 million, or $14.5 to $25.7 million per lane kilometer. When the Fast Track project was authorized in 2004, commuter rail services between Boulder and Denver are expected to start by 2025. When the first phase of the high-occupancy toll lanes were completed, that date was pushed back to 2044. With the high-occupancy toll lanes now completed, there's no official date as to when the commuter rail services will be introduced between Boulder and Denver. But a new passenger rail initiative has been introduced called Front Range Passenger Rail. This proposal envisages a passenger rail service from Pueblo in the south through Denver and onto Fort Collins in the north, utilizing BNSF and Union Pacific right-of-ways and stopping at all the communities along the way. Another alternative would be just to build more roads. People think that it's cheap to build a road. These cost estimates for highway construction come from the 2006 US Federal Highways Association and have been converted into kilometers and Canadian dollars. For an example close to home, the southwest portion of the Calgary Ring Road currently under construction is estimated to cost at least $7.5 million per lane kilometer. And it's important to remember that the road is at least 2 lanes, one in each direction. With highways, there isn't just the cost of construction, there are also maintenance costs, plowing and sanding in the winter, pothole repairs, and other wear maintenance in the summer. So are roads really the least expensive option? The aim of Alberta Regional Rail is to establish a passenger rail network in the Calgary-Edmonton corridor, connecting all the towns and cities and providing an integrated transportation network. Using the existing Canadian Pacific right-of-way and upgrading the track to allow higher speeds and an increased number of trains, provide a frequent, fast, reliable, efficient, sustainable, and safe mode of transportation. Building stations within the urban areas in order to enhance the communities and connect with the local transportation infrastructure, creating an integrated transportation network through transit-oriented developments. In order to use the existing right-of-way, Alberta Regional Rail would use CFR-compliant, freight-compatible rolling stock, similar to what is used on Via Rail, the GO trains, and West Coast Express between Mission and Vancouver. Rough cost estimates based off the Calgary Bow Valley Mass Transit Feasibility Study published in 2019 would suggest that twinning the existing line would cost less than $7 million per kilometer, and a complete station would cost about $25 million. For a comparison, a twin line has a greater capacity than a 4-lane highway, which, as mentioned previously, can cost $7.5 million per lane kilometer, making passenger rail a quarter or less the cost of the equivalent highway, and far more economical than installing high-occupancy vehicle lanes. In order to create a fast and safe passenger rail system, at-grade crossings would need to be altered by means of constructing overbridges for vehicular traffic. The ideal funding source would be a public-private partnership model, utilizing the Alberta Community Transit Fund, the New Building Canada Fund, and the Canadian Infrastructure Bank. Ridership in the Calgary-Edmonton corridor can be estimated to be at least 5,000 passengers per day, and there are many examples of similar passenger rail services across North America. All these passenger rail services run on existing freight lines using freight-compatible rolling stock. There are also a number of examples close to home. The West Coast Express is a commuter service between Mission and Vancouver in British Columbia. Morning services operate into downtown Vancouver, with afternoon and evening services back to Mission. The service operates on Canadian Pacific right-of-way using CFR-compliant freight-compatible rolling stock. GO Train operates in the Greater Toronto and Hamilton area. Started officially in 1965, it was approached as a test but recognized to be a permanent service with the Lakeshore East and West services. Over time, services were expanded to a total of 7 lines. Today, the GO Train is being enhanced to Regional Express Rail with electric trains, all-day service, and expansions to London and the Niagara region. We are looking for a letter of support from the community in order to move this project forward, to secure private investment and approach the provincial and federal governments. Any questions?
Thank you very much, Thomas, for the presentation. It's very informative. We will open it up for council to ask any questions they may have. Councillor Bates.
Yeah, this is Gavin Bates, Councillor. As I listened to your presentation, I guess the one thing I'm struggling with is our current rail line, the way it's increased in traffic over the last 4 years, even 5 years. And CP keeps asking us for faster speeds. And I'm having trouble envisioning how you would coordinate a schedule and use their line, because they're even talking about needing to twin their line for themselves.
There is At the moment, the capacity of the line is the capacity is 32 trains a day. And I mean, we would twin the line as well. And if it meant putting in additional lines, that's what would need to be done. The additional aspect that we would want to do is to make it safer. So it would be to try and eliminate grade crossings as much as possible. In some cases, the grade crossings can't be eliminated because there just isn't, it's just not feasible to install a bridge. But we'd enhance the grade crossing, then that can allow for higher speed and also noise reduction, like no whistle. No need to blow a whistle in order to cross the grade crossing because the grade crossing is secure enough to enable that not to happen. There is a number of different things, and there is still a more detailed design phase to go into. So we're still at a very early stage. It's mainly the principle that there is the potential, there is the capacity to install a passenger rail system on the existing network. It's been done across North America. The equipment is available. It's off the shelf. Via Rail is actually starting to have its new locomotives and passenger cars delivered in Ontario for their passenger rail service. So and we're not going to use anything that's going to be much different from that. There are more trains. Twinning the line doesn't necessarily just twin the capacity, double the capacity. With the twin rower line, you can have over 250 trains a day. At the moment, there's 32. So it's a significant amount of capacity increase just by twinning the line. And that doesn't really cost that much more, is it? It's only potentially $7 million per kilometer for the track, and then 10 to 15 million for bridges and so on and forth, and you can get there.
Well, yeah, thank you. I look at the actual rail line as I visualize it in our own town and have trouble visualizing the twin between two residential sections, for instance, that are currently there. It's just, I'm just giving you, I guess, the concern that I see there, and then I see nothing but increase to CP with sidings and spurs and switching. I waited for a train this morning, switching, I think, perhaps a warehouse load here right across the street from the office. Anyway, seeing all those logistics fit together into a train schedule would be that would be really interesting to see.
It will be an interesting challenge, and it's one that I'm not afraid to back away from.
Okay, anyone else have any questions? Councillor Maceros?
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Yeah, I've got a question about some of the assumptions related to the CO2 emissions and the cost savings that were calculated here. Can you just let us know how you came up with those numbers? So for instance, are the assumptions based on usage, and then how did you come up with the usage numbers?
So I've done my own estimates. I'm not going to release detailed financial information at this point in time, just because I put a lot of time and effort into it. I haven't got anything out of it, let's say, at the moment. So, but I've done a lot of work on, as I'm an engineer, I do a lot of cost estimating as part of my main job, scopes of work and that side of things. We've approached additional people outside of Alberta. I think Bern could probably answer better on. So I've done mine based on daily traffic counts on the QE2 itself, and then population, about amount of population. There will be a point in time where we need to do a proper feasibility study, and I accept that, and that's something we're looking, the next phase we're looking at is to do a proper feasibility study to actually gauge exactly how many people in Innisfail travel to Calgary, or maybe there's a significant number of people in Innisfail that travel to Red Deer exclusively. And that won't come out until we get to a proper feasibility stage, which should be the next step. I think Vern can talk about the economic side of things.
Hi, can you hear me? It's Vern. Hello?
Yeah,
Can you hear
yes,
me?
we can hear you. Yeah, thank
Yeah,
you.
I was on mute for a while. Give you a little background. I graduated with a degree in economics quite some time ago. And since we made our first announcements in December, we've attracted 4 of the world's top transportation economists. Personally, I worked on a project with the farmers of Alberta on carbon offsets for several years. And we will be incorporating UN as well as federal government models when it comes to updating the GHG reduction estimates very quickly. Just to give you a further update, today I received from one of the world's premier economists based in France, model, it's called the gravity model that we're starting to work on right now, which will provide revenue as well as forecasts on improvements for citizens and as well as visitors using the corridor. And our expectation is to complete that gravity model within 2 months and probably release its findings shortly after that.
Thank you.
Okay, well, thank you very much. I think we realize that we are, well, I shouldn't say underserved. We're not served by passenger rail at all in this area, of course. We were years ago, and my dad took my grandfather to Toronto via passenger train. And his train station was right across from the town office back in that day. And there used to be passenger rail, of course, and up and down the line here. So if everything came together, Thomas, and you could wave that magic wand and everything came together the way you're hoping it would, how long do you see before this project would get underway and or completion?
Being a civil structural engineer, a lot of the initial design I think I've done. So I know what kind of ties I would need. I know what the rail specification would be. I know how to build a station. I know what kind of design I'd want to have for the station. As mentioned to a previous community, the aim would be, I don't want to have restricted access. The aim would be to be step-free from street to train car, fully accessible, even in downtown Calgary and even in downtown Edmonton. That puts a couple of restrictions on what we can actually do and what we can actually achieve in terms of size of trains and size of stations. So a lot of that side of things is already done. I already know exactly what it needs to look like, and I know how to get it done. There's a couple of bits of detailed design. There's a couple of bits of rework that would need to be done. For example, in Strathcona in Edmonton, at the moment, Canadian Pacific have that as a little maintenance shop and as a transloading point. All that activity would have to be relocated to another location. So that's the first step, that would have to be done first before we could build a station in Strathcona. Same in downtown Calgary. There is a significant pinch point and a significant bottleneck through downtown Calgary. And a lot of the operations that Canadian Pacific do in that location would have to be relocated, either relocated, part of it may be relocated east and another part of it may be relocated west. So that would be involve the building out of the Keith Yard into a proper storage and passing point location, and also twinning the track and various other things before any station could be installed and worked on in downtown Calgary. So given that, you're looking at maybe 2 to 3 years before stations along the corridor could start to be built, because you want to build the ends so that people had a destination that they could go to. And of course, the feasibility study would let us know exactly where people are going. And so we could build a train timetable from that feasibility study. I said, maybe there's a lot of people that go between Innisfail and Red Deer, in which case the section between Innisfail and Red Deer, maybe that gets built first. Maybe we can get some services going on there initially. There's a lot of different things to say and how it could be done and the intricacies of it. But services could be easily operated within 2 to 3 years, 2-3 years at the outlight, because there is a significant amount of rolling stock that's available right now. As I said, GO Train is enhancing to Regional Express Rail. They're getting brand new trains. They will cascade a number of units onto their existing services on other lines and other corridors, but there's going to be an amount that's going to be available to be refurbished, upgraded, enhanced, and then used here. Same in California. Caltrain from San Jose to San Francisco. That's being upgraded as well, and they're already having delivery of their new units, so they're going to be able to cascade equipment and rolling stock down to new lines. And there's also other passenger rail equipment that's available. So theoretically, wave my magic wand and everything falls into place. You're looking at 2 to 3 years. Depending upon what people want to see, maybe some people just go, you know what, I don't want to be riding on an old train and I want to see brand new rolling stock. From the experience of Via Rail, it takes about 5 years to get new rolling stock. From writing the scope of work to what the specifications are to actual getting delivery, you're looking at about 5 years. So at an outlier on that side of things, you're looking at 5, 6, 7 years before services could start operating. It's all a matter of what the expectation is. We could start up a very simple, basic, few trains, one train in each direction, running up and down the corridor throughout the day. We could probably get away with 6, maybe 7, pushing 8 services per day if we did that model, and just having a dozen or so stations along the route. Or we could build it out completely, have the total of 23 stations, almost 25 stations, and twinning the whole line, and that you're looking at 5, 6, 7 years.
Okay, well, thank you. It's very exciting to listen to this, and of course, the Calgary-Banff corridor seems to be back up in the early stages as well. So I think what we'll do with a letter of support is we'll just table that for another meeting, just for time's sake, where we can have more of an opportunity to discuss this as a council. And but we appreciate very much your time today, and thank you so much. And we have further questions, we will certainly get them to you.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and Council, for taking the time to listen to us.
Great, thank you. Okay, Kara. Okay, so we will move on to 4.1, and I'll invite Darcy and Nicole Blair to come forward, and we're going to present us real estate stats for Innisfail and area. Welcome.
Is that good there? Everyone can hear me? Excellent. Can you hear me a little bit better now? Well, thank you so much for having us. We really appreciate the opportunity to speak to council. We're excited about the new council and all the great faces that are here today. So looking at it from a real estate standpoint, the town of Innisfail in 2021 saw a 53.1% increase in residential sales, which is massive. It eclipsed 2014, which was the previous residential sales record in Innisfail, as well as Central Alberta. So in Central Alberta, we saw massive increases, more in the rural areas than we saw in Red Deer, which I think speaks to COVID and a lot of the attitude coming out of that they want to maybe see smaller centers, more tight-knit communities that they want to be involved in versus moving to Red Deer. As a Central Alberta as a whole, we saw a huge influx of people coming from Ontario and BC as well. Noticeable amount changes with the amount of people coming into Central Alberta. So we're very excited about that. So one of the things that we're at a crossroads right now in Central Alberta and in the town of Innisfail is the listings. If you look on this here, we had in 2017, we had just under 3,000 listings. Right now, we're sitting at about 1,200 listings. So a massive decrease in listings, which one of the things that we need to focus on is trying to get more listings to be able to sell them, to bring more people into the communities. Speaking with another agent in our Red Deer office that deals directly with Laban, Laban has decided not to go forward with any spec homes this year in any communities. I think it speaks to where building costs are and just the appetite for those spec homes. So I don't foresee that as being something that we're going to see this year from any of the builders, being Lavon being the front runner that way. Any questions for us?
Or does anybody want to sell their house?
Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley, through to the delegation. Yes, Blair and Nicole, just a couple questions. One is what's the age demographics of the 51% moving to Innisfail? Are they young families? Are they retirees, or a combination thereof? And the second question is, what are the buyers looking for? You say we're not building spec homes. So if we were to get into building spec homes, what are they looking for? 1,400 square feet, 900 square feet, bi-levels? Can you give us an idea, sort of?
I think each age demographic is different when it comes to what they're looking for in new builds. I think the under 30 are looking for small and flashy, maybe not necessarily a big yard or garages. The over 40 crowd is looking for bungalows in that 400 plus range. But there really is no scientific method to figure out exactly what people want. Every person is so individualized, and we're seeing that more and more as the years go on in real estate.
Okay, maybe just a supplementary, Mayor Barkley. The people that are moving in, what are their age range? Like, what age groups are they? Are they 10% under 30, 30% 40 to 50?
We don't have that
Oh,
specific stat. We just see the through the 75 agents through the Remax Central Alberta, that we're just noticing, each agent is noticing that there's just more and more people coming from out of province, which we haven't seen for a considerable number of years. So,
And that would be kind of a tricky stat for us to try and figure out the age. Like from a real estate standpoint, that's never disclosed to us. Maybe the age demographics of who's coming. We just get they're coming, right? They
Right.
came to town.
No.
We don't necessarily know the ages.
Okay.
I think from personal, we definitely saw an over 40 crowd do most of the moves in our own business last year. It was not a young crowd doing it. It was, I mean, not that 40 is not young, just over 40. It was over 40, but not the first time home buyers. It was more movement within the community, maybe moving bigger home, downsizing, which would come from the over 40 group.
okay. No, great. That answers. Thank you very much. Yeah.
So Nicole and Darcy, you sell all over Central Alberta. So who are we losing business to? I know we have fairly narrow inventory in town. We don't have row housing, townhouses, whatever you want to call them, for example. And do you see people wanting to move here but can't because they cannot find what they're looking for?
150%. Yes. I would say maybe in years past, we lost a lot of our young buyers to Penhold, just because they offered some of those row housing and smaller starter homes. But it used to be so much like this. I think it's more, if we're losing people, it's not just specific to those. We're losing people for executive homes. We don't have a lot of those, they don't turn over as quickly. So I think we're losing a little bit of everybody, but we're also, last year we also gained, right? Bless you.
So give us a solution when you say builders don't want to build spec homes.
I know that really
where is the
was-
solution?
I know that kind of was like and that's simply because of cost of building is fluctuating so quickly that they just can't price a house and have that price last the duration of the build. So they're nervous about getting in too deep. Again, though, if you build it, they will come. I mean, we've seen that time and time again. If there's product available, it's sold. And with that huge increase last year, I'd hate to see that momentum lost with just lack of product. So we're not sure right this moment how we're going to navigate that, because the builders are not wanting to do spec. They want a signed contract.
Are you seeing that in other communities as well?
Yes.
They're kind of pulling back and stuff.
For sure. Red Deer, huge.
So how many listings in Innisfail right now? Do you know? Like
Pardon me?
How many
listings in
listings?
Innisfail right now,
The listing is-
approximately?
right now in Innisfail, we have 44 listings.
Oof.
Of those listings, 20 of them have been on the market for over 90 days.
Mm.
So we would consider them almost stale and off the market essentially. So we're probably looking at 15 really good listings right now in the town of
Yeah,
Innisfail.
gee.
Again, does anybody want to sell their house?
Does anybody want to build a house? Nicole,
Exactly,
Darcy?
right?
Yeah, no.
So builders saying we want to pause
Yeah.
and not build spec homes. Ugh, you know, that's something we'll have to navigate on
Yeah.
that side, but there is still such a demand for inventory. So if somebody could start filling that void,
Yeah.
it's just helping draw more people, but to only have 40 some listings to work with is, oof.
Yeah, this time of year, it's
Mhm.
Oh, Councillor Heistad?
Yeah, thanks to both of you for coming in today. I'll sell you my parents' house. How's that?
Okay,
So,
perfect.
they don't know, but I
Okay.
better call them. But I know in Innisfail, we have some land itself, and I think half the battle is cutting that deal with the developers, right?
Mhm.
That's the magic, how do we do it? But kind of curious about the people coming from out of province, Ontario, wherever. How do they find out about us? I'm curious how, we do our social media stuff. Ken's doing a great job with that, but is that something that you are doing out of your office, that you're drawing people into our community?
Yeah, we're working on at the brokerage head office in Red Deer. We are working on a website right now specifically to target Ontario and the Vancouver metro area, just promoting what we have. So each town will have its own landing page in there, but it'll be a really good promotion of a lot of comparisons of what they can purchase in Central Alberta versus what they can purchase for in Ontario or in the mainland BC there. So still working on it. We're hoping to have it published here fairly soon. And then of course, all 75 agents in our brokerage will be more than happy to start sharing that out. But I think it's just people know that Alberta is a great place to live. Central Alberta is a great place to live weather-wise, just the amenities that we have available to us at a short distance. So I do think Central Alberta is top of everyone's list in Canada.
Okay, yeah, no, I was just curious on how we can, and then offline, we can talk about how do we help you. So those are my questions. Thanks.
Councillor Bates?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. They're not exactly real estate, but you're closer to the knowledge than certainly we are. One would be, so with the reluctance to build spec homes, what is happening then with lot sales? Are they flat or are they, because then obviously that could turn into a non-spec home if somebody decides to build. So are most people who want a home not thinking a year in advance and building it? They're
That's
just
just
going to
it.
look for something that's,
Not
they're
a lot
going
of-
to look for something that's built and nobody's building them is.
and that's what people want. It's just like commercial or industrial or anything like that. People want to put a shovel in the ground right now. People with residential sales want to buy that house. And we're seeing possession dates of 2 weeks to 30 days to 45 days, which it used to be 90 days was a normal thing. People want it now and they don't want to wait that year or possibly 18 months to build a property.
And I do think that's a generational thing too, an age thing. It's like they think it, they want it, they want to be sleeping in there. We have a closing in our office. I heard Darcy on the phone today, the lawyers call. It's 8 days from time of closing to time that they get keys. So it's this mentality of buy now and sometimes maybe think about it a bit later,
Yeah.
but they just want it right now. So that's lot sales are flat. If there's something shiny on that lot, they want it.
I guess my other question would be, so again, this probably isn't directly in your business, but so then when somebody decides to build a home and sign that contract, do you think, I guess is the question, that the builders are padding their contracts because of the unknown costs? And
yeah, I do think they are padding those estimates, plus they're padding the timelines because they just don't know, even electrical boxes to hot water tanks, those things are all supply chain issues, and they just can't guarantee someone can move into their house in a timely fashion.
We did have one earlier this year where a local builder quoted on a home, signed a preliminary contract with the buyer, and in 6 months, the price went up $198,000 on that home. So from just under 5 to just under 700, which priced those people right out of the market. And there was nothing the builder could do about it. It was just supply.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think too, maybe the little older generation don't want to build houses, right? I
Yeah,
don't
it's
want to build
decisions,
a
it's-
house. Yeah.
Yeah, whether it's something new and shiny, or
Mhm.
it's just, I don't want to put a year into decisions of building something.
Yeah, you can
I
put it
just
into
think we're
renovations
such a
instead.
society, yeah, that says just get, I don't want the trouble. I
Yeah.
just would love to have this.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
But on a positive, such an incredible
Yes.
year last year for Innisfail. That was,
Well, it's great to
man,
see.
that was amazing. Yeah.
I think too, we're seeing Alberta turn a little bit of a corner economically as well. And,
Yes.
some good things happening in the area. And
Yeah.
this morning, Globe and Mail, I get it online, and I see a house in Ajax, Ontario. It went for $2.1 million, and it would be very similar to a house I'm quite familiar with in a
Okay.
close in Innisfail.
Okay.
It's a smaller lot, older house,
Yeah.
and it's no wonder people are moving here, right?
We had
Vancouver.
an agent from Calgary showing yesterday some of our listings, and his seller in Calgary had 60 showing requests on the first day that their house came on the market. This was yesterday, and 22 offers before they went to bed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 60 showings, 22 offers in 24 hours.
Like going back to 2006 all over again, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that person is moving from Calgary to Innisfail for work.
Okay.
But yeah, just immediately needed something because they had 22 offers to deal with. Yeah. Crazy.
Well, it's good.
It's
In a
so
way,
good.
it's good.
Yes,
Yeah,
we
it's
just-
exciting, and it's
very exciting.
it's been a while, so I'm happy for everybody, and happy
Yeah.
for the real estate offices in town that are
Yes.
finally seeing a corner turned here. So,
Yeah.
Councillor
totally.
Bates.
So in absence of Councillor Hysted's parents' house really being for sale, how many building permits do you guys want to take out?
Well, yeah, we have actually spoke about that a lot. Because again, if you build it, they'll come. If there's product there, I can understand on a big front, the builders not wanting to maybe build a bunch of spec homes. But yeah, Darcy and I said, wouldn't it be fun to build, a house and see what happens?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we look again at, where do you build it? If there is the availability, like we have
Right.
lots of vacant lots in old Innisfail, but people are looking for that sense of community as well, right? We have the Napoleon Meadows Way stuff. Back alleys are a huge thing in today's society with RVs, and those lots don't provide it. It's a great concept with lots of parking and that, but there just isn't that RV parking solution. So, we see lots of the 40 pluses that are maybe looking to downsize, but want something a little bit newer, but don't want to spend a lot of money. We don't have a lot of that, and we don't have a lot of spots that we could build that. So
Yeah.
it's finding those spots to build the right pieces of property.
Yeah. Anyway,
Thank you.
so much for
Yeah.
taking the time and coming. We appreciate the update, and we will do it again.
Darcy does ship this stuff to Todd,
Yes.
I think every month. Yeah.
Yeah, we get it. Yeah. Thank
Good,
you.
Good.
Yeah.
And if you guys see it and have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to me, and I'll do my best to explain what those numbers and
Yeah.
those charts all represent. So.
Darcy's a stats guy. He loves it. Anyway, thank you,
Okay.
guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
What's that? Okay. Yeah, I better call my parents.
Okay, we'll move on to 4.2 Red Deer County Recreation Agreement that CEO Becker will present to us.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Really, the next two agenda items are for information for you, but certainly fire any questions back. Myself and Megan on both these reports, certainly entertain your questions. The first one is the recreation grant agreement, which is agreement with Red Deer County. Just to give you a little bit of information, the current agreement was renewed in November 2018. There was a previous agreement prior. This agreement that we have now will expire at the end of this year, December 31st, 2022. The grant is almost identical in format to the other urban municipalities that reside within Red Deer County, such as Sylvan Lake, Delburn, Bowden, et cetera, you know where I'm coming from. What could change would be the per capita rate, as well as the list of facilities that are within each municipality. I can say that the funding that the town is getting right now is approximately double from the previous grant that Red Deer County has provided to the town of Innisfail. Some of the grant highlights include that Red Deer residents would have access to town facilities, and the town would not impose an additional or a different fee structure for Red Deer residents. They have equal access as they would if they were an Innisfail resident. Part of the agreement, you'll notice a map. The map is a catchment area for Innisfail recreation. And the calculation that is used within this map for the agreement is 4,876 people, which is the per capita component of the agreement. So really that's really it. As the report states, this item is to be placed on your strategic priorities as an item that needs to be addressed within 2022. So just quickly, if there's any questions to this report, Mayor and Council.
CEO Becker, has a bird been done? I know there wasn't previously really other than anecdotally, but is there any tracking done as to usage from county versus in town?
Yeah, we do keep stats, not only for the pool, primarily LLC bookings, and then FCSS programming as well. County town split tends to hover around 80-20, 70-30, kind of in that balance, whether it's pool usage, all of that. So that's kind of what we use as a guide. Even when we've been submitting requests to Red Deer County, that's kind of what we use as a touch point.
Okay, thank you, Director Jenkins. Any other questions? Okay, I will just have someone make a motion then to please accept this as information.
I'll move that,
Okay.
Mayor Barkley.
Thank you, Councillor Bates. All in favor? Okay. And we'll move on to 4.3, the intermunicipal collaboration agreement again with CEO Becker.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. And same kind of flavor as to give you information regarding an agreement we have with Red Deer County. All municipalities in Alberta must have an ICF bylaw, an intermunicipal collaboration framework bylaw that was placed within the MGA several years ago. The town has an ICF, an intermunicipal collaboration framework with Red Deer County. So whereas Red Deer County has multiple agreements, so the way it works is you have to have an ICF with your neighboring municipality. Ours is Red Deer County. Red Deer County then would have ICFs with Lacombe County, Clearwater County, New Hill County, Mountain View County, Bowden, Sylvan Lake, Delburn, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So it kind of tells you the work, especially rural municipalities have to undertake to get these agreements in place. I believe that the intention of the ICFs is to force engagement between specifically urban and rural municipalities, identify what services each muni is providing, which services are best provided on an intermunicipal basis, and how the services are to be delivered and funded. I believe we have a very strong relationship with Red Deer County, whereas some municipalities, urban and rural, have not so strong of a relationship as we do. There's different stories out there and throughout Alberta. The renewal of the bylaw, which is it's a 5-year bylaw, there's a window. We do know that in 2023, the bylaw will come into play, but the bylaw does read that we need to enact on renewing the bylaw within 2022, as outlined within the bylaw. So the renewal of the bylaw will give each municipality an opportunity to explore amending the service inventories within the bylaw. So the list of services and descriptions make up the bylaw and points out, and I must point out that the couple of things that I want to highlight specifically is the work prior to the election of the intermunicipal development committees of Red Deer County and the town, updating the IDP, intermunicipal development plan. That work was done the years prior to the election, but concluded right before the election. So you're going to see that information forthcoming in the near future, but that IDP, that intermunicipal development plan, was updated. Along with that, there's an economic development agreement and how we work together with Red Deer County. So again, it is required to have this item as part of your strategic priorities to start thinking about the ICF, the future bylaw, and the potential to either add or remove services that are listed on the current bylaw. So again, for information, Mayor and Council, and certainly be happy to take any questions.
Okay, thank you, CEO Becker. Does anyone have any questions?
Sorry,
Councillor Wing?
I don't have a question, but I just would like to just comment on the county. I had a long conversation with the mayor of the county before the election. Certainly as the city of Red Deer and Red Deer County were going through this negotiation and this process, and just that the county holds the town of Innisfail in very high esteem. And so thank you for the good work that you have done with that. They have felt, as you had mentioned, the role of the framework would be to especially encourage conversations between urban and rural. But when you look at the vast number of rural conversations that the county had to have, they just felt that there was good communication, and they felt that there's a strong network throughout the county of rural communities. So I think that's a real feather in our cap. So thank you for that.
Okay, thank you for that comment. Anything else? Then I would please have someone make a motion to accept this report as information.
Mayor Barkley,
Yes.
I'll move that we accept the recommendation as information.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Dunham. All in favor? Okay, carried. All right, we'll now go into our roundtable discussion, and we will start with Councillor Maceras today.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. Last week was busy and fun. After the town council meeting, there were a few things like the Winterfest was awesome. I had a chance to wander around there a little bit, and you guys did a great job organizing that. Went to the swimming pool tour, and that was very helpful, just thinking in terms of some of our decisions that we're going to be making and talking about over the next little while, and looking at you know, it was fascinating, and it was a great opportunity. So thank you for that. Mayor Barkley put something out last week, which was an interview that Heather Thompson had done with Ryan Jesperson. I thought that was really interesting. Also good to think about as we're kind of moving towards our strategic planning decisions. And there's a number of important and interesting options for professional development coming up. And that's my roundtable today. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Councillor Dunham.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. As well, Monday, January 10th, regular council meeting was a very interesting meeting and took a lot away from it. And I appreciate everybody that was there and spoke up. On Friday, I as well attended the Aquatic Center tour. And I've lived here 4.5 years, and I'd actually never had an opportunity to even be inside the doors. So after hearing the different issues, it's one thing to listen to what people are saying. It's a whole other thing to take a tour with the facilities manager, Trish, and actually hear that historical issues and the current issues and the time frame or the lifespan of what we have left with that. So that was wonderful. I'm really looking forward to touring some of the other facilities so I can get a really 360 view of what our options are and going forward with the different options for a multiplex and what our responsibilities are going to be around working together to try and figure out what the best option is for the community as well with community input. So that was my last week.
Great, thank you. And Councillor Wing.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. So last Thursday, I spent the afternoon and evening with the Innisfail Chamber of Commerce Board in a strategic planning session. We were facilitated by Jason Leslie from the Alberta Chambers. We reviewed the strategic planning work that they began last year. That work was managed or facilitated by Jason last year as well, putting some priorities together as the chamber moves forward this year. You know, there's no doubt for small organizations that COVID for the last couple of years has really impacted the kinds of opportunities and the kinds of business that happens. So it wasn't a matter of ticking off a bunch of boxes from last year, but it was a matter of really focusing on what is realistic and what we need to do as we move forward. So the board was very, I think, arrived in a place where they thought or they felt that the next 3 to 5 years work would be to position the chamber to provide strong and relevant programs and services to members, to work as a part of a regional and provincial network of chambers, engaging in policy and advocacy, and collaborating with local economic development programs and priorities within the community and within the region. The trade show, as of right now, the trade show will proceed on the first weekend of April. They've received notification from the town that the arena is available for that weekend. So it's a bit of a quick turnaround for their staff, but they feel that they'll be able to get busy with it. And I think businesses are keen to participate. The Ag conference that had been scheduled for later on this month, either at end of January, early February, has been postponed for another year due to COVID, and the sort of the feeling of another virtual event just isn't appealing. So stay tuned. I think there's some interesting things to come, lots of good things to come from the chamber as we move forward. And then finally, yes, the Aquatic Tour, thanks to the staff for a great tour. I love that place. It was a state-of-the-art facility when it opened, and it still has some great things to offer. And so we can keep using the pool as we move forward and make some plans for the future. But it was nice to be back in the Aquatic Center. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Wing. Councillor Bates.
Okay, so I guess the first thing I did after the last council meeting was attend the Great Disconnect film presentation. And it really, it was really good. I mean, some of the soft things that we do as councillors and should be paying attention to. Yeah, it was a pre-COVID production, but it was all about sense of community. And there were 22 people, I think an additional one came on partway through, and everybody stayed on, nobody left. And there was a really good discussion afterwards. And I do believe it's something that we should, not now, but we should talk about us looking at it as a focus for us to look at in a soft way of how we be sensitive to that sense of community that perhaps has been deteriorated during COVID, and how we can help invigorate it throughout the community. At a Mountain View Regional Water Commission Zoom, they didn't used to do Zooms, but they sure are now with the COVID. The operations were stable. There may major challenges, of course, the last 2-3 weeks have been the cold to try and deal with, and they have had at least one person that did have COVID, and so they've even tightened up further their rules around literally nobody gets on their site unless it didn't happen that way, but they're trying to keep the integrity of their operation together. No real fears that that's in jeopardy, but they're really being careful. And actually this week, I'll just stay on that commission. There is a board Zoom with Brown Lee, and they're going to outline the roles of commission members versus council members. We are all commission members, but we are all council members, and sometimes the two can blur. So I will arrange for Councillor Harrison, who's my backup, to join that. The aquatic tour was very well done, very up to date. It's good to be up to date as we go forward and try and figure out what we are going to do with our recreation facilities. And I did drop into the Winterfest and saw until the end of the first shootout with the Golden Guns of the Golden West. MPC's canceled it again this week. It's been kind of a light load this term, and looking forward to the Red Deer County engagement. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Bates and Councillor Hystad.
I think everybody's caught most of it. I know that the taffy was the best at the village, so appreciate the committee for doing that work. And I'm looking forward to our meeting with the county, and Age Friendly is this week. I believe it's at 1 o'clock on Wednesday. And then, yeah, no, I appreciate all the efforts the staff had put in for that tour. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Hystad and Councillor Harrison.
Thank you, Mayor Barkley. This past week, I took in the Great Disconnect webinar, and it was excellent. It really brought out some points that we need to keep in the back of our minds when we're starting to look at subdivisions and actually strategically look at our community for 5, 10, 15 years down the road. It really sort of opened my eyes. Historical Village, I was there all of Saturday, and I agree with Councillor Hystad, the taffy was the best. And we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 353 people go through the village. So I would consider that a success, and Kane and his crew did very, very well on a short notice. So please, kudos to Kane. I've got an RDR mug Zoom meeting on Wednesday. We have a policing webinar, I believe, also on Wednesday evening, which I feel is very important. It's AUMA sort of going through the policing report and giving us an idea of some of the challenges that we may face. Also took in the Aquatic Center tour, and yes, I would agree with my colleagues that hands-on, the walkthrough, being able to touch and feel and look makes a big difference. It's one thing on paper, but when you're actually walking through there and you see the crack, you see this, you see that, it just gives a different light to for me anyways, a different light to the situation. Councillor Bates mentioned that we'll be sitting in on the webinar or the Zoom meeting for the Mountain View Water Commission on the difference between council, or the roles and responsibilities for council members and commission members. It's going to be a great presentation. So I think with that, I think that's about, and Red Deer County, that's coming up this evening too. So looking forward to all of that. It's going to be a busy week. Thank you.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Harrison, very much. So this past week on Wednesday, I had a Zoom meeting with Annie Dormuth, who's with the Executive Director with the Canadian Federation of Independent Businesses. She had a presentation that she gave to me, lots of data in there from small to medium-sized businesses. I certainly, spoke to her about Innisfail and the good position we're in financially as a municipality. And, we certainly have always in the back of our minds and our decision-making, our business community at the heart of everything. So they're always there for us to reach out to if we need anything. And maybe we'll see some of this work kind of poke into our economic development advisory group that we're working on. And Todd and I met with a business owner mid last week. Was on the Aquatic Center tour, of course, Winterfest as well. And kind of got swept up in some of the play, I guess. I'm not sure what was going on, but yeah, the maple syrup on a stick was good, sweet. Had seen the Great Disconnect a few weeks ago, just with some volunteer work I've done. I'm not sure if there's potential, CEO Becker, where we could maybe watch that as a group, as a council. Yeah, I believe Karen said it was going to be recorded, but it is important. And also I think, council understanding the work that is going on in this community through FCSS and the primary care network and AHS and Innisfail Connects. And I met with that the group or part of that group last week, and they just keep continuing to expand those programs. And the Community Partners in Action is actually a nonprofit now, so they're applying for grants on their own, no longer going through AHS, and they have been extremely busy. And I know there was another opportunity that came up late last week as well that they're looking at, so it may be an idea to have them come in and do a presentation, like whether it's with Karen or through Karen, to bring council up to speed with that. And then this week, tomorrow, we'll see what the weather's like, but there's supposed to be the mayors of South Central Alberta are getting together in Sundre, as they do every month. Red Deer County engagement tomorrow as well. And then the Central Alberta Economic Partners Group is having a presentation on Wednesday on carbon capture, utilization and storage, which I believe everybody's been notified of that. Looks like there's some opportunities right here in Central Alberta, very close to us. And then the Alberta Municipalities Police File, as Councillor Harrison is mentioning, I think that's going to be very important for us to listen to that and be up to speed, because there's going to be some discussions coming down, shall I say, with the province and the Alberta Provincial Police Force, or the potential for one. So we want to make sure that we're up to speed on that. So other than that, I think that's about it. So I guess I will ask for a motion to please go in camera.
I'll make the motion, Mayor Barkley, to go in camera.
Thank you, Councillor Maceras. All in favor? Thank you.